Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello out there in Focus of Liberia land. Welcome to this Friday night debate, September 20. You know, every Friday night we bring you debate topics discussing the issues of our homeland. And tonight, like no other, we will be discussing how are we doing with the new UP Boakai promises so far. We have some brilliant panelists as usual. Let me start with the seasoned, unrepentant sedition, Mr. Jerome Gaiman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eastman. It is an honor to be here with all these folks, brilliant minds, and let's get started.
Thank you. And of course, joining us tonight is Dr. Clarence Pearson, one of the new upstarts and radicals coming up. How are you? Thanks for joining us, Mr. Pearson, Dr. Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. It's a pleasure being on tonight, and I want to just say hi to all my esteemed panelists out there and on the set tonight, and all our viewers. I'm looking forward to a great night and a great show tonight.
And of course, we have the refreshing views of Mr. Gabriel Carter, one of our senior financial banking specialists. Welcome, Mr. Carter.
Jimmy, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
And of course, from the clergy, we have Dr. Elijah Washington. Welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you, brother. It's good to be on the show. Thanks for having me. It's been a while, but I'm glad to be here.
All right. And of course, one of our most eloquent analysts on this show and loyalist, Mr. Elvis Morris. Welcome to the show tonight, Elvis.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. I'm Chris. What you doing? Very John, our brother John, with Ray tonight. But great to be here.
You see, you eating Ray tonight.
No, I said I'll probably jump in with Ray Orton now. I'll be eloquent. I'll be straight to the point.
Okay. All right. So, gentlemen, as you all know, when President Boakai took office, he promised no business as usual. He said that when he was taking over from President Weah, whom he succeeded, was a boy doing a man's job, as he refrained. He projected himself as the experienced and elderly who was underutilized by his former boss, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. and was going to hit the ground running. He laid down his arrest agenda, promising to take on the bull head on, and made several perennial promises, improving bad roads, improving food shortages, improving school and education, the sanitation of the nation, and many others. The voters elected him believing he would deliver on his promises. We are now 8 months into his presidency. So let's discuss how is Boakai doing so far and what he promised the Liberian people. Let's try to see if we can come up with some grades, just generally speaking. We have A for President Boakai is doing tremendously well. A B, it was a rough start, but things are getting better now on a steady path. A C, he's failing to live up to some of his promises. And D, he has not fulfilled his promises, but still it's too early. Let's start with you, Elvis.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Eastman. I mean, I think the obvious answer is D, right? Not in terms of the grade, but just that he hasn't, fulfilled his promises. But of course, he's only 1/6 of his presidency, so he has 5 more years to go. That's still a long time. You can lose a lot of things, and you can recover it. But there's one thing you can, when you lost it, but when you lose it, you can never recover it. That's time. So the first 8 months, you can't recover that 8 months. But he has 5 years, 4 months remaining in his presidency to do some of the things that he promised to do. So it's still so early. But of course, a lot of the promises that he made, we can see clearly has not been fulfilled, and then they're not being fulfilled. Something like 3% of the promises made has been kept. And to even get to 50%, he has to be doing, a lot of those things and fixing a lot of the rules, doing so many things that he bravely promised to the Liberian people. So the obvious answer here is D. He hasn't fulfilled his promise, but he still have over 5+ years, and hopefully he can get things right for the sake of the Liberian people.
All right, Dr. Washington. Well, how will you grade him? Because we have seen other nations, when the people take over, they hit the ground and make some drastic changes. How would you rate Boakai changes in his first 8 months of administration?
Well, I don't know what I need to rate Boakai, because one person who, few months ago, just before the elections, I did say that Boakai as a person would not do anything for the matter different in our country. He would change nothing. Ain't nothing he's changing. So for me, I don't know what is the matter of grade, because I don't see what he's doing, because I always said he wouldn't do anything in the first place. So I don't see what he's doing. I would have loved, since he's been power for 9 months, I would have loved to see something that would say, "Oh, wow, I never anticipated that he has changed my mind." He has changed nothing, because for me, I don't see. He still has the same political rascals who were masquerading in the past. The same people coming around. They keep recycling them. The conflict. Sometimes when I think about Liberia, I don't really want to see it from the perspective of Boakai. I like to see it from the perspective of. I did say on the show one time that Liberia is cursed, and I was not moderate when I said that.
That's a strong word.
I'm not. Yeah. I think the country is cursed, because a country where lies has become a national disease. Corruption has become the language of the people, and you say how these same people, the same very corrupt people who were around, stay coming around, and you see nothing fundamental change. It makes me scared about my own country, and that's why I thought Liberia is cursed, because nothing changes. The countries keep the same people. Everybody comes and just do this planet talking, and they come and I look at the whole Boakai government, I just see the same thing over and over, the same thing the city people were doing, the same thing Ellen was doing. It's the same thing they're doing. Nothing has changed. And nothing will change because it's not just a Boakai thing, it's a whole thing about the country, the culture of the country.
Mhm.
And that's why it keeps going the same way. So change Boakai. It's just changing the clothes. Change Boakai, put someone else there. It will
Mhm.
be the same thing. So I don't know. That's why, and that's why I want to strongly believe that that country is cursed.
Wow, Mr. Carter, you hear Dr. Washington using in French to say maudit, say Liberia is cursed. How do you grade our first 8 months of the Boakai administration?
Great question, Mr. Eastman. All right, so I would like to put this as a for those of you here. I know you watch boxing, right? When before a boxer gets in the ring, he makes statements what he's going to do to his opponent, right? An experienced boxer, when he gets in, he takes the first few rounds to study the opponent, see how he moves, right? We call that information download. It could be the first 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds. In the 6th or 7th round, he has studied everything about his opponent. That's when he goes to work on him, right? In the case of this president, he made a lot of promises prior to coming, which we talked about here. He talked about the roles. He talks about his arrest agenda. And so when he came in, we expected maybe the first few months or so to study. Now that you're in a ring, study what is happening within, the economy, which is your opponent, and then maybe download the information and then start to deliver, right? But immediately upon election, all of you here, you've been watching. There's been false start upon false starts, false starts upon false start, chaos upon chaos. I've been telling people this president has been going from chaos to chaos, right? It kind of fizzled out a little bit. Right now, I think we're at a plateau, right, where he's trying to figure out himself. But coming to the West, South Korea, China, trying to solicit investment for his agenda hasn't yielded anything, right? We saw that supposedly there are yellow machines still sitting in Liberia. There are the issues with the buses, right? So he has a lot on his hand within the first 6 months that he could have figured things out. Maybe 3 months after that, in the 9th month or 10th month, right? We're supposed to see some kind of, efforts being done in terms of really taking initiatives toward his agenda. But, to be fair to him, I think somebody alluded to this earlier. The same group of, I want to call them leftovers. Supposedly, they refer to themselves as technocrats from Ellen era, are being recycled, right? So there's no new, fresh ideas, innovative ideas around him. As old as he is, he's supposed to have that kind of innovation, young people around him, new ideas around him to energize his agenda. But we see the same recycled individuals from Ellen era being recycled in the government. So it's the same thing that we got the last 12 years of the Ellen era that we're seeing here. Even worse, the worst part about this is that Weir has set the bar so low that he doesn't feel like he has to perform anymore, right? So in my case, to be fair to him, I think he's failing right now. This is to compare it to what we call a midterm. He has failed the midterm. He has another term to do something well in the finals, and hopefully he can redeem himself. As I keep saying, he has the ability to reset at the end of the year, reassess his this entire year, and make some changes. Hopefully, bring some new ideas into to get started. But from my point, I think he's a D right now. Thank you,
Mr. Gaiman. The Liberian people said that the CDC administration of President Weah didn't get it done, so they decided to give this elderly, senior, experienced father a chance to prove himself. But then we are seeing many of the same elements of of Ellen's administration being recycled back into the government. Do you think Boakai is making a good 8 months, make a foray into changing the country? You're muted.
Thank you for the question. Boakai makes me to feel highly intelligent and intellectual. Actually, he makes me to feel and look like Nostradamus. I'm just like the guy who can see beyond everything else. During the campaign, I told you and I told the Liberian people that I concur with Mr. Costa when he said Joseph Boakai has no new idea. Joseph Boakai is a tribalist. Joseph Boakai wants to be president to secure a few dollars for his family, and that's it. So if you look at what Costa said and what I said a few months ago, we are exactly on target. Joseph Boakai profiled his bona fides, his being in government since 1972, been in top administration since 1980 when the Doe administration came in from all the agencies. And he said that my 12 years in government, it was the proximity to power. I have seen how power works. I was not given a chance to actually have a voice. I have scoped the administration. I know where our faults are. I'm going to hit the ground running. I know what to do. But then there was a younger guy that came by the name of Cummings. Cummings says, and he quoted Albert Einstein, if you do the same thing over and over, you are bound to get the same results. So here we are. Joseph Boakai admitted in July that he has no plan. He set up a committee to develop what he called the agenda, the arrest agenda, and he gave them to the end of the year to bring him a full plan agenda that can be implemented. That means the entire 2024 is a waste. No plan. Joseph Boakai said the arrest agenda is being developed. At the end of the year, the committee is going to report to him. Then he will begin to implement. In the meantime, everything that is happening from January to now, the 9th month, is absolutely zero. So we are not criticizing. I think Mr. Gabriel Carter is being very diplomatic here. He knows, he looks at the numbers, he looks at the history, he looks at the tapestry. He knows that this is terrible. Joseph Boakai's place is not on this paper. D is not even what he deserves. There should be a letter, the D, an F, because Joseph Boakai admitted that he has no plan. The plan is being developed and it will be developed. Arrest will be developed and presented to the nation at the end of the year. So what will you hold him for 2024? He says nothing is planned. So what they are doing now is basic try and error. The president is visiting Canada as we speak. No state visit. He went to a community center. Former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is in Canada, and she's being received at the state level. The government of Canada is receiving our former president at the state level. And the sitting president is at a community center interacting with regular people. There were no police. There were no reception at the airport. He just got out of the plane just like everybody else. So a D on here is not befitting. Joseph Boakai is a failure.
Wow. Dr. Searson, you appear to be one of the most learned men on the panel. What do you say about Jerome's comments here that he deserves an F thus far?
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. When I look at the four projections that you have, I don't think you are intending for those letters to mean a grading score. I think it's just projecting him on view. some considerations as to what's unfolding in the country. So I would take C. And what you say in C is that he is failing to live up to his promises. He is failing to live up to his promises. And I agree with that. And I want to underscore a failing. And, and a couple of things I would like to highlight in this opening. My heart is broken, Mr. Eastman. My heart is broken because I have 2 academic programs in Liberia, 2 schools for less fortunate children. And even as low as the fees are, the community dwellers are still finding it difficult to enroll their children into those schools. It's sad. I have a couple of friends who are graduating from University of Liberia and other schools around Liberia and cannot even afford their graduation fees, let alone the new tuition that is coming up for the next academic year. It is sad. It is also sad to me to see that people cannot even afford to buy daily meals to keep up with even transportation fares because of the hike in the prices. It is sad. And I think I would have loved to see Sharif here, my good brother Sharif, to see if he can still drive from Monrovia to a hometown and come back in less than 24 hours like you were trying to boast about when it came to no car getting stuck in the mud. The last I checked, I just paid somebody way to go to Maryland County. I just sent that money yesterday. And the guy who is going to Maryland is one of my cousins. He's blind. All right. And I have to send somebody along with him because the road is horrible. And and it's sad. And I say this, not trying to repeat any of the other panelists on here, but I say this when our national budget is poorly planned. Our national budget delayed getting to the legislature in the second quarter, and then got pulled out of the legislature in less than 3 months after it was submitted in the second quarter. And not only that was pulled from the executive, it got fingered, and now we're getting to realize now the real reason behind the fingering of that budget, wherein the $15 million was spent outside of the budget. $15 million was spent outside of the budget. So if we had not made those noise, by now that budget would have been right there. They would have sneaked all that unexplained expenses into that budget and recast it, and then we'd hear nothing about it. In that $15 million, the president is using $1.1 million to buy a vehicle for himself and the vice president when the students don't have buses to drive to school.
Wow. It's
sad. $1 million plus. How can we be going out there to go beg for money and we're spending $15 million outside of appropriation in the national budget? And Mr. Eastman, permit me, please. Sorry, I'm so emotional tonight. Permit me. Not only that, but the legislature spent $1 million in the House of Representatives. $1 million to go for special setting when they already taking pay, getting transportation allowance, getting fuel allowances, getting scratch cards, getting fuel for the generator at home. $1 million just to go sit for special section for 2 weeks. And then the Senate also spent $800,000 for special setting when they're taking pay. Put it together, $2 million. $2 million. I'm sad. I don't think, look, I'm so sad, Mr. Eastman. I'm so sad. I'll leave it here for now. I'm sad, Mr. Eastman. I'm sad.
Okay, Mr. Morris, let me counter you because the question why here is, one, they don't formulate their plans too well. Two, they're not appropriating, in fact, but going outside the legal means to spend money. A lot of this beginning to look as if they're not too sure what they're doing. Well, if we allow, you say they're trying to find their way. Can we get them more time, or can we offer some assistance to help?
Right. Thank you again. Look, we have to be fair to this president and this government. Let's not forget that this is not his budget, quote unquote. He hasn't had an entire fiscal year to raise revenue. He hasn't had that time to have, double jala do his thing, so to speak, to increase revenue generation in the country. And I think he is handicapped by the fact that this budget doesn't fully reflect his, his desire, his policy desires. So I think we have to be, patient. I think this first budget has some stumbling blocks. And I think this is probably why the president is kind of on the road, so to speak, to try to find monies to supplement this budget to at least within his first year or going into his second year to accomplish some of the things that is really high in terms of priority on his list of policies and accomplishment that he wants to accomplish within his first 2 years. So I'll be fair to him in giving that this is not completed his budget. This budget was already in motion during President Wia's, term. And I think he's trying to reformulate it to reflect his policy agenda. So,
Mr. Morris, a point of correction. I'm asking
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
President Wia budget that was submitted was pulled and scratched, and it was resubmitted, formulated by the new government. So this is their budget. Thank you.
That's true.
I mean, it's hard to, it's hard to argue against that. But I'm saying I'm trying to be fair here and get him some leeway. I don't want to just beat him over the head. We are kind of, beating this government on the head. Let's try to see, a different perspective. And my point here is that he hasn't had enough time to raise enough revenue to do the things that he wants to do. This first budget, I think we got to give him some slack. Next year's budget, that's where everything in that budget will be on him. The amount of money that's raised or projected, that's going to be on him and his administration. So I think it's only fair to wait until at least next year when we get the budget, and then we can see how much it improved from this budget or maybe not, and what are the priorities within that budget. So I'm just going to say that let's give him some slack. When it comes to other issues in terms of rule of law and other things, we can talk about that. But particularly the budget, I would like to give him a little slack because I don't think he's had enough time to fully formulate this budget to his true, to the true capacity of the people that they have in these strategic, ministries. So for now, that's all I have to say. I'll pass it back to you, Mr. Eastman.
Yeah, Dr. Washington, I think I want to agree a little bit with Morris. To develop a budget, there's a lot of inputs. You have to be able to look at the data, identify all the areas that are lacking, and then you have to look at how your income is generated. He hasn't yet done any policies that will generate more income, and then he has to relate it to his agenda that he came there for. Roads. As you can see, we heard about $22 million being spent on roads outside the budget. You think that he has to, before he will be able to implement any kind of plan, he needs at least a year in office to pull the data and the information to help guide it.
When a boyfriend and a girlfriend lives together for 25 years, and this boyfriend keep beating this girl all the time, providing nothing for her for 25 years, and then he comes and says to the parents of that girl, "When I marry your daughter, it's going to be different." It's only the fool who is going to believe that. And that's the thing. I don't know where these Liberians get these hopes from. And I don't know. Maybe it's because of my status in philosophy, maybe not to get any hope. But I don't see where they get their hope from. That they keep hoping that things are going to change. Where you guys get this hope from? That okay, let's give them some time. After the time, things will change. Sometimes you just need to do the minimum things that you need to do. Go to work on time. Do this thing. Do this. Just little things you need to do. You don't even need money to do it. Respect for the rule of law. And respect for human dignity. And that's what you need to do. You don't need money to do these things. So I don't know where people get all these hope from, and they say, okay, let's get them some time. I'm hoping. If someone hasn't done it in 50 years, you think he's going to do it? The same, keep recycling the same rascal politicians around. Nothing is going to change. And I don't always like to beat this Boakai, as the main. Okay, he's the president, so everything goes on. But it's also about our own country. The very people who who call themselves the transformer, who do all these shouting around when CDC was in power, the very people who were shouting all around you, they're the ones now who are running these ministries and they're doing nothing. They're doing the same status these people are doing. So I just think it's a cultural thing for our country. That I don't see the loyalty. I don't see what people, how they love their country, how they want to serve their country. The very people who will criticize everything in their country, when they get done these things, they go back and they do nothing. And that's what saddens me. That's why I don't have hope. I'm sad, but I don't.
Yeah, but Dr. Washington, don't you as learned as you are, many things you were taught. You were taught virtue. You were taught honesty. You were taught to be a good person. Do you think that it partly the culture is affected by the ill education that has been received?
I think it is. Yes, it is. I think it is the education that's been received. So that's why when I was talking about reform, where does it start from? It has to start from the classroom. Because even the little child out there who's growing up, the thing that, if I'm going to fetch water for this older person, the person has to give him something in return. When I was growing up, it's like, when you do what you see as a blessing. So yeah, it's a cultural thing, and it has to start from the classroom, because the whole country, like I said, in our country, corruption has become the language. There's nothing you can do in our country that you don't have to bribe somebody to do it. It's just sad. How's the country going to improve? So it's not just a Boakai thing, it's a whole cultural thing, and it's affecting our country. Take this group of people from there, but new group of people there, it's not going to change. Why? Why it keeps happening to us? The alien government, the same thing. We complain. And everybody says, okay, and what is his name? And George Weah, he's not a typical politician. He's a footballer. He loves his country. He comes back and it's worse. And everybody there, they're so hopeful. Oh, this man, he's been around for 50 years. He was not the president at that time, and now he has come. It was just 9 months. The very people. That's why I was hoping I would see, what is his name, Admin on this Admin. I was going to say Admin. Yeah, I was going to see Sheriff. Yeah, I was going to see, what is his name,
Kamara.
Boakai supporter. I'm going to see them. I'm going to ask them the same question, because of the same people who kept shouting on this platform that, when somebody says something that they're going to do it, they're going to do it. I know politicians. These people are crook. They're liars. They just come. They give you all these hope, but nothing changes. Now people keep suffering. So when I hear, when Dr. Pierre say, nothing, don't be hopeful. Nothing is going to change. That is the culture. And it's so sad to say that, but like I always say, our country is cursed. Because the people who claim to be the reformer, when they come there, they even become more corrupt. Because the very people I used to see in the United Party who were complaining about CDC, they're the very people now who are so corrupt. So that's that.
Father Washington, I mean, your father, right? You're supposed to give people hope. You're supposed to tell them to trust in God to transform their life, and you're giving the opposite to our people today. Is that a Christian doctrine?
I'm not a dome prophet. I'm not those people who go around. I'm a philosopher. I'm not a person who go around tell people, hey, be hopeful, God is going to come, do this. No, I'm not. I see the reality. I look at things I'm a critical thinker, so I see things I tell people, get prepared. Nothing is going to change. Get prepared. Nothing is going to change. Because that's what I'm seeing. I'm not going to get people false hope.
Mr. Carter, let's take a new posture at this. You're a financial expert, vice president for a major bank in the USA. If you were to offer advice to how their budgetary appropriation should be divvied out as to spur economic growth and the various things they have to, what would you advise them?
Man, that's a loaded question, but thank you for asking that question. You see, and I think this is something that I've told a lot of people, to those who are running. Like, you put out an agenda, it's supposed to be an aspiration, right? Your agenda is supposed to be an aspiration of what you're supposed to do when you're campaigning. When you take office, it goes from an aspirational standpoint to a tool, right? Meaning everything that you've highlighted in that budget, you now break it down into the various ministry. Let's say your arrest should be overtaken by the agriculture, and let them quantify that aspect of it to the detail. Each one of them, whether you have education, sanitation, and then you take that figure and put it in a big bucket. Said, in order for me to carry out this entire agenda, in his case, the arrest agenda, this is how much money that I need, right? This is how much money that I need. In his case, that never happened. This budget remained, this aspiration arrest agenda remained in its aspirational form. It was never quantified. Each aspect of it was never quantified. Up to now, if you ask anybody in the administration, tell me the agricultural piece. How much is it going to take you to implement that single, just the agriculture piece? One. Also, how much impact is it going to have? How much jobs are you going to create by just implementing just the agriculture piece of your arrest agenda? He has yet to do that. So to answer your question, if I were to talk to this president, in all fairness, that would be the first thing that I tell him. Break this agenda down into pieces, quantify it, right? And make sure now these trips that you're going on, and pitch that as a leader, as a pitching point. That's one. Two, the second thing would be, how do you fit your agenda into the budget? So I think it was Morris that said this president inherited a budget that was for CDC. In all fairness, they recalled that budget, and I think they recast it when they came in. You cannot have an arrest agenda and have a budget that is 90% spent on recurring expenses, right? You cannot have an arrest agenda where you want to implement things, you really want to make impact in the lives of Liberians, and then you have these exorbitant subsidies such as cars, fuel, scratch card, phone bill, all of these things in your budget, right? So the first person, I will say this and I will land quickly. The point where you have to make an impact is the moment you take office, right? I expected him to come. I would have advised him to make a bold statement with the budget. The fact that he recalled that budget, say, okay, this was the budget that was put out. I didn't like it. We recalled it. I would have cut every subsidy, including the cost. What's the other one? The administrative projects that they gave 150,000 to those representatives. I would have cut all of those things, redirect that capital into either one of the arrest agenda item, either agriculture or the sanitation piece, or even the road aspect of it, right? That aspect, when you do that, people will say this president is very intentional, right? He is different from every other president. But you don't do that.
Mr. Carter, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you know if the president have the power to do those things arbitrarily?
He has. You can. Yes. One, you can do it through what do you call it? Executive order. And two, you're the president. Contrary
So
to
the
what
national
we have,
budget can be done through executive order?
You can do it through veto power. Line item veto. Line item veto.
Yeah, but that's going to be negotiation. They have to. They have to go back to the house.
Not necessarily. Yeah. Go ahead, Carter. Go ahead.
No. Yeah. Make your point. Make your point. I think you're making a great point.
Yeah, the point I'm.
Listen, the reason I'm saying this is because I also work with the federal government where I get funding and all of these things. When your budget is submitted, even when it's agreed upon, when my transportation department comes in and says we need $20,000 for gas, I can go back and say, based on my 3 years the past, this is what we have spent for the past 3 years. Yep. With 2 or 3% budgetary increase. when you do the auditing on the side, they have something called variance.
Variance.
Why
Yeah.
are you asking for 3% or 2% above what you want? You can make your case for that. That's what administrators do. Now, when you look at this budget, and I have to disagree with Mr. Carter here, these people had a budget. They have people that worked on it. But when you look at the article that came out today, they said they even went beyond around their own budget that was kept. They call it outside. $2.5 million unexplained. $192,000 to the Muslim community, $60,000 to the Muslim youth engagement. These are things that are not in the budget, but they went around outside of the budget, total of $50 million, leaving their own budget that they cast, their own budget. So, Mr. Carter and everybody is, if you have a plan, like if Mr. Carter was to give them the budget, they will accept it. But when they follow it, no, they will go around it just like they have just done. Their own budget is submitted. They left it and went around it and did something. $15 million that was not in the budget. Money redirected to their own costs. So I don't know, Mr. Carter,
Mr. Gaiman, the key here is cutting things, right? To save money, to cut costs. And the president has to negotiate with the legislature. They make that budget together. The president don't just go there and say, you know what, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. I'm signing a bill.
Yeah.
They have to send it back to the legislator to concur with him. That's the issue.
Let me make the point here, and I will land quickly for you guys. I agree with you. Here's the thing about Liberia. What's so unique, the president has such too much power. He has the ability to dictate what happens to that budget. If you're intentional about what you want to do, you have. Here's the other thing. It's one thing to push a budget forward to all of you, because let's say, assume all of you guys are senators and representatives, and I come in and say, I want to cut your, subsidy for cars, fuel, and you, Morris, and all of you here know very well this is something that benefits you, so you will push back on it. But here's the case. Here's the thing with the president. He has been in power since 1970. I think somebody said 72.
Yes.
Jimmy said 1972.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this experience. You know what that does? This is where that power comes in. We call it sway, to be able to persuade people. Because I've been around all of you. I've worked with you for so long. I've worked in government for so long. I know how to make things work, right? Meaning, if you push back, I know how to negotiate with all of you to make sure I get what I need done to move the agenda forward. I will get your buy-in. Yes, you will push back.
Carter, Liberian man greedy. Liberian man very, very greedy. They will not want to one thing or argue this on the backside.
And besides that persuasion, there is also authority that he has to do that. If you want something works in Liberia, you can do it. Ellen did the brown envelope. I'm not proposing that he does it, but you can, if you are intentional about what you want to do in Liberia, you can do it. It's just the will, and the political will is not there either for him or anybody around his administration, and that's where the tragedy lies.
Well, but
Mr. Carter, can I ask you a question? Because Emmanuel Jackson is bringing up a good point. We have reoccurring expenditures taking up, I don't know what the percent is, 60, 70% of the budget?
No, 92% of the budget.
90% right now.
That is
ridiculous. 97, I think. You're 97.
I don't know. We have to fact check.
Over 90%, let's assume it that way.
Okay. If 90% is reoccurring, that means you are an investor. That's why I'm directing this question to you. That means you have only 10% for investment opportunities.
Exactly.
What would you do as a financial expert to tell these people? Yeah,
I will say this quickly, and I will be very short, and I will yield. Let's say all of you here, you are in the government, and you bring that budget to me. Let's say I am somebody, let's say North Korea, or we just went to China. I'm China. You came to me, and I know that you spend 90% of your budget on recurring expenses. But here you are in front of me trying to solicit donation or funds or investment to your country. What make you think I will want to put money in?
Mr. Carter, we're not talking
give
about China.
people-
We're talking about you as a president domestically. What will you do to bring that reoccurring expenditure down?
Jimmy, was that the question?
Yes. What would you do?
Okay,
They brought it to you.
simple,
You look at it. You're a financial expert. You said, "Wait a minute, 10%
simple thing.
investment."
Simple,
What would you do?
simple thing. Very simple. I would say this, and I'll say this. This is why I don't think I don't want to get into Liberian politics or government. I would strip every car subsidy, every fuel subsidy, right? Every single subsidy in our budget. It's going to be cut out. If I recall that budget, I will
The
cut
word is austerity. Austerity, right?
Austerity. Exactly. You can't be asking for people for money, but you're living lavishly. You know,
Yeah.
if you want to, if you want to invest, you have to live modestly for the
That's
next 5, 15, 20, or even 30 years until you see some kind of economic gradation improvement in the lives of not just the people in power, but everyone in our
That's
country.
right.
Then you can say, okay, because you have been so consistent in terms of improving the lives of people, we can now reward you. You know, besides your 15,000 that you get a month, maybe we can give you maybe scratch card or fuel subsidy, but not 15,000 in addition to your monthly salary, not a car in addition to your monthly salary, not 150,000 for you're not in a position to make investment as an individual. You know,
Thank you.
giving you $150,000 to go make agriculture development, that is as if I don't even trust the investment part of our country, that I'm going to relegate it to each and every one of you as a senator or representative to do that.
Right.
So for me, if I were to make that proposal, those are the fundamental things that I would do. And then gradually over time, I will reduce that salary to be consistent with what's happening in the region as well. That's how you know that somebody is intentional. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jerome. Yeah, Carter has laid it out. Leaders eat last. I heard that statement go around. But our own leader did a belly the bus and stay can give us some what would you advise these people here?
Listen, in our Bassa vernacular, they says that they say what the soul actually needs as your son is crying, got a big gash on his foot. You know that you have to sterilize that soul. It will take alcohol, iodine. You know it's going to hurt, but it's necessary. Let's look at, people will say, well, Burkina Faso, they are military folks and all that. But look what the guy did in Burkina Faso. He reduced salary, right? All top government officials, including himself, by 30%. It's a decree, 30%, okay? He increased the salary of the civil servant, the low people. He increased the salary of civil servant, teachers and doctors by 50%.
That's right.
And he refused the motorcades, the bulletproof cars, the motorcycle brigade and all of that. He refused all of that. And the people at the bottom that's supposed to be going after his life became his protectors. The civil servant, the base, the middle class, the roots of it. These are the people he took when Joseph Boakai when he was campaigning. And Dr. Clarence, I'm coming to you, when he was campaigning, he said, the people whose salary President Weah criminally reduced by harmonizing their salary, I will reverse those, and you will be making your salary during Weah time. We are going back to the Ellen Johnson time, and everybody. What did he do first when he came? He increased his own salary. He increased everybody's pay. And here we are. I think somebody just asked.
That's not true, Mr. Gilman. The president took a 30% pay cut.
Okay, great. That was the rhetoric. 30% of what?
Of his salary.
What is salary? This is the math that we keep asking.
That's a great question, Jimmy. I mean, Mr. Gilman. 30% of what?
His official salary on the book, I think, is like $200 41,000 or something like that. His official salary.
But you see, when you do the equation, you got to balance it on both sides. The Joseph Boakai never said my salary is 200,000. I'm taking 30%.
Well, it's not a secret now. If you say they're giving you stuff,
I don't want us to be political here. When a politician tells you 30% of my salary, the next question should be 30% of what? Yeah, Dr. Pearson, go ahead. Dr. Pearson, go ahead.
I won't call you about. I think if anybody tells me that President Boakai cut his salary, I don't want to believe him. Because since BBC misreported his salary, no one from the Boakai administration have gone there to make that correction. And as far as BBC report is concerned, he's making $8,000 a year, annually, $8,000 annually. Which president like Liberia made $8,000 annually? And the Minister of Information are not going to make that clarification with BBC. And BBC still gather information on their website.
But Dr. Pearson, how much does the president make in general that we know about in Liberia? What's the president's salary?
You see, this is the disservice to Liberian people. I shouldn't be answering that question. The president of Liberia should be answering that. That should be public information.
Yeah.
I don't even know what President Boakai. What I know right now is that President Boakai has $100,000 scratch prepaid card. He's spending while traveling to the shopping malls around the world. Who gives a president $100,000 credit card or prepaid card to travel with? So let him tell us what his salary is. You know, we shouldn't do this in Liberia. Look, I'm so hurt tonight. Mr. Eastman, I'm so hurt tonight. Let me tell you why I'm so hurt tonight. Nobody should tell me it's too early. Our budget envelope has not gone to $1 billion yet. Our national budget is around $600,000 under this president. That $600,000, our budget envelope could not even afford to keep that 600 million. Sorry, that 600 million could not be kept up. 600 million could not be kept up, and now we have to come back to recast the budget to cut the budget down. And while cutting our budget down, Mr. Eastman, what did we cut? What did President Boakai recommend to be cut? He recommended education to be cut down. He recommended agriculture to be cut down. He recommended transparency and accountability to be cut down. And other important factors. Not only that, Mr. Eastman, not only that, but as we speak to you right now, while they were cutting agriculture and cutting education and cutting transparency and accountability, they were spending $15 million through the
budget. Just to say this, I want to research it.
That's wrong.
By Google, our president makes $90,000 a year. That's the official number that they say. $90,000 a year is a salary.
Look in the budget.
What is the president budget? What's the president budgetary item for this year, fiscal year?
That's the office of the presidency, right? That's yeah. But the president's salary is $90,000 US. Now the budget is different. The salary is one thing, the budget is different.
That's a fallacy.
I guess you see, we don't know. If you don't know the number, I don't know the number. I went to research it. It said 90,000. If somebody know a more accurate number, let them bring it on the show.
No, show me that on the president payroll. When President Boakai show us his asset declaration, how much was there for vice president for salary? That's a good starting point. What was on the asset declaration for salary for the vice president? That's a good starting point. It's more than $90,000.
That's what I'm saying. When I said 240, I said 200 for the 1,000. Saying what I said, no, it's not true. The president don't make 200,000, and I went and researched it, and it said 90,000. I know it's in the 200s because senators can make more money than the president in Liberia. I know senators making 220,000, 231,000. The president got to be making more than that. So I don't know. And we don't have a concrete source to tell us how much the president make, how much the vice president make, how much the speaker make. We don't have those concrete, database. So how can we know?
If I may, just 30 seconds. If I may, just 30 seconds. President Boakai campaign on the mantra of transparency and accountability. What is holding him back from telling Liberian people what his salary is, and of this amount, I'm giving back to Liberia 40%. Why can't he say that in a transparent manner? Why can't he say? Look, listen, as we speak right now, there is an unexplained miscellaneous expense for $2.3 million that is not in the budget. I was just spending the past few months. Not in 8 months. They just passed 3 months. The budget I was in the hand. $2.3 million unexplained miscellaneous. Unexplained. The same NSA President Boakai was querying. NSA just been in a short period of time, in less than 3 months, $2 million. They say they cannot explain how they spend it because it's security matter. And that is outside of what is in the budget. What are we talking?
Yeah, I agree with you. The whole budget thing is criminal. Somebody needs to go to jail. It's a whole criminal thing that's been going on in our legislature. Seriously.
Mr. Washington been quiet. Jimmy, over to you.
Mr. Washington's crying. Mr. Washington is so
Mr. Washington, go ahead. You
He's been crying for the country. No.
He's weeping. Dr.
Really,
Washington.
I mean,
Go ahead, Dr. Washington.
I'm listening to all of you, and everybody's talking about the president, and I think that's the problem we have in our country, because we always look to the president, and we don't look at ourselves and look at what we're doing and the people who are around us, what they're doing even in the schools, in the school buildings, in the ministries, in the marketplaces, in the churches, and that's the problem of our country. We say our country, we want our country budget to be 1 billion. Somebody can say Liberia, you want your country budget to be 1 billion next year. Okay, I will give you 1 billion and keep your country money and spend this 1 billion and see how much you're going to spend, how you're going to use it. I can tell you they would not even use it to have their own country. That money will finish with it. They will use half of that money on themselves without thinking of their country. That's our country, and our country is rich, but we just the kind of people who not. I don't know what kind of people we are. Our country is rich. If we can put all our resources together and do it for our country will be one of the best countries in the world. But you give us all the money, give us $30 billion tomorrow, so that be our budget. You, like I said, recurring expenditure will be more than even what we're going to do for our own people. So our problem fundamentally is us. It's us.
Gentlemen.
Mr. Eastman, 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Go ahead.
After the election, we have multiple shows. I'm no financial expert. I think Mr. Carter here, maybe even Mr. Gaiman, who handle budgets. I said it in the beginning. If President Boakai wants to be successful, he has to invoke austerity across all government agencies and ministries.
Thank you.
You have to do it.
Say that
It was a must when I said it. But here's the thing. People who are genuinely hungry, people who have been genuinely broke for 6 years, some of them who had to borrow money to support your presidency, your ascendancy to the presidency, you think they won't go through anything they call austerity? Someone never even heard that word in their life before. They ain't got no patience for that. The amicability, the DeLong, those other people in private capacity who supported this president, who wanted to be working at Freeport, who wanted to be doing all the big things that they're doing. You think they would let him even go for austerity? President Boakai, who was living on loan, who probably borrowed money to finance his campaign. That was not what he wanted to do. And it was what the country desperately needed, was to go into a state of austerity, cut everything down. And the key thing about austerity, it has to be across the board. Everybody has to be on board with it, because somebody can be sacrificing and then other people not sacrificing. That's the key there. So if the president is sacrificing, the vice president, the legislature, everybody has to sacrifice. To convince everybody in the nation to sacrifice is a Herculean task, and I don't think President Boakai had that capacity to do it. Go ahead, Mr. Gaiman.
A point of correction. The country is now going through austerity measures. Everybody in Liberia, with the exception of the 5% at the top. Yesterday, you saw one of the alliance members of the Unity Party, the Gonglo Group, I think that's the LAP. They did a press conference and they put up a press release. And the chair of the party is going to be on Point Sunday, Nyankwe Zeze. He wrote that there is no way that Metal Steel, LAC, Firestone, all the big corporation now has zero tax threshold. And what they did, they passed the tax burden onto the regular folks through inflation on rice, on sugar, on flour, on water, on everything. So if 95% of the people are poor and they are paying the taxes, that's austerity. And then you get less than 5% of the people. My own sister in Grand Bassa County, the pro tem, her office budget alone is $2 million. The speaker, our own a CDC chairperson, his budget is over $2 million. The co-chair, another seditian, Thomas Fala, his budget is out there. These are the legend. Look, I am so upset that when I was talking to Musa Ability, he had my hopes. He said we will do all we can.
I don't hear about that Japo, man. That dude, don't call that name. Say that guy is a real Japo.
The folks are saying we are going to resist this recast budget. It's not going. I just got a text from Abraham Williams that they have secretly passed.
That's why I tell you, those guys are fake.
So
they can't radio station to propagate themselves and sell itself a thing going on.
They have passed the budget. Everybody, do you see what Front Page Africa reported? That they're setting, how they call it, they're setting fees for the house was what $1.5 million?
Mr. Gibman, the rate of children who are not going to school right now in Liberia is higher than it's ever been in the last 20 years. There are kids who can afford to go to school right now. Private schools are almost empty in Liberia right now. So what rescue the kids to rescue the people?
That is the austerity we are talking about. When you say you got to convince the people, Mr. Carter, you are a financial expert. When the cost, the taxes have passed on to the poor, you and myself, and
inflation is a tax on the poor.
Where the Ministry of Education called the schools to delay opening the school, because have you ever heard in the history of Liberia the government called the schools and say don't open school because times are hard? So
yeah, I mean children are in school. People in my own family, people who never had to ask for school fees before they called me to beg me for school fees. But what's really going on in the country? What's really going on there?
On bulletproof vest, bulletproof car for the president and the vice president to ride around Monrovia. Who is chasing Joseph Boakai and Alexander Cohn? Go ahead, Mr. Carter.
Here's the thing. when you're a criminal, you know that everybody knows you in a community to be a criminal. You got to do things to protect yourself.
They worry about CDC. They think CDC on all children now. What they worry about?
The bulletproof car is warranted based on the state of the economy right now, because there are a lot of people who are being upset, and I think he feels it. So that warrants a need to even be more protected. But I will say this quickly and I will end. Here's the reason why I proposed earlier that I think, as Morris stated correctly, the president should have invoked austerity across the board. Perfect example. We give senators and representatives fuel subsidies. Do you know what that does? It doesn't incentivize them or gives them the honors to want to solve our energy problem. You're giving somebody gas subsidy. What makes you think that individual will want to solve the fuel subsidy in the fuel problem in our country? You're giving somebody scratch card where he doesn't even have to worry about his telephone bill or buying cheap data anymore. What makes you think if the telephone company in our country constantly keep increasing the fees for scratch card, which is exorbitant right now compared to when Ellen was in there the last time, right? What makes you think they have the audacity to go negotiate with the telephone company to say, hey, these fees that you're charging on the average citizen, this is too much. They have no reason to do that, So everything that is happening with the budget and with these people, like Gamer keeps saying, that are on the top to benefit, they're only looking at their family, and so it gives them no incentives to solve the problem for everyone else. I yield. Thank you.
Gentlemen, right now I hear you guys talking a lot about expenditures, how we divided out the revenue we get. But here is the thing: we all know that the government is the main employer in the country, and there's no way we can grow an economy without a robust private sector. Therefore, there has to be movement in the direction of building up private enterprise in the country. Have you guys heard how we are trying to do that? I only hear balloons, getting loans and stuff. Why don't you see any incentives to encourage, Liberian entrepreneurship and encourage more and more companies and industries opening up in the country? Which one of you want to take a stab at? Are we doing anything in this direction?
Well, Mr. Carter, let's start with Mr. Carter here. Mr. Carter, basically, some of the questions that most of our Liberians are asking is, let's given from your, from the beginning, and Mr. Morris's, being honest or being fair or being generous to this administration, right? What specific achievement, though, if any, that have been made by the Boakai administration that indicates progress will be made? Have they done anything that gave you hope that something is down the pipe that will change? Because when I look at my own friend, Western Gafile, and I say, you have your own home, you have everything, and they're giving you home allowance, they give you housing allowance. How is this possible? What have they done to give you some hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel? Hopefully that light is not a train coming to run you over.
That's a good one. So for me, I think I like to give people some kind of leniency, because I think we're all, there's a theory out there for those of you, if you're in management, called Peterson theory or Peters theory, meaning people rise to their level of failure, meaning that if you, Jimmy, or Mr. Pearson or Mr. Washington, you guys are so good at what you do. Let's say you're good at managing your budget. Just because you're good at managing budget, that does not mean I should now put you in charge to managing a whole division, right? That means I'm taking you out of something that you're very good at and putting you to the place where you will failed, right? Because I've taken you from place somewhere you've been very effective and bring you to a place where you don't have too much experience. And based on that theory, that's the reason why I keep saying that we should give the president a little bit of leniency. And here's why. One, when he took over, the 4 staff that he's had, they are innumerable. We can't count them, right? We've seen him try to, make something happen with the yellow machines, even though he went about it the wrong way. The bosses, I think he had good intention, but for somebody who's been in power for so long, he should have known that NTA, or whatever you call it, it's not a revenue producing entity. So you bring in that many buses to trying to revive it and make it, it's just going to lose so much money, right? The other part was his the firing of the central bank governor. This is basic law, fundamental law that he should have followed. He didn't know that he couldn't just get rid of the individual. So for somebody who has been in power for so long, I expected him to understand the basic things that you can do within the law and outside of the law, right? And he failed to do that. So he had those 4 stars. But the reason why I think we should give him a little bit of leniency, again, is because, and you can relegate this to him as well, because of the people that's around him, the people that he's brought in, like the former Ellen, senators and all these people that are now around him, right? And I say give him a little bit of leniency not because of what he's done, but because of what he's done successfully, but because of the mistakes that he's made. And by the end of the year, I am hoping that every one of us here at the end of the year will have some kind of reflection. We can look back on the year and say, I was able to do this successfully. I've had lots of failure here. Why did I have these failures, right? The point here is that by the end of the year, he will do some reflection and be able to, if he has to make, reshuffle, make some changes, then so be it. So for me, I'm giving him for the rest of the year to do that, not because of what he's been able to do successfully, but because of the failure. And we learn a lot from failure than we do from succeeding. So that's the reason why I want us to give him a little bit of leniency.
Mr. Carter, can I ask you a quick question if Mr. Eastman can allow me to?
Please go ahead.
So how much time do you want to give a 42 years experienced public servant who worked in government for 42 years? How many more? What other proof of competence do you need if this man worked for 40 plus years and served in the second most high office in the land as vice president for 12 years running, and still couldn't afford his own bills in his house and had to be loaned by talk show hosts across our country? What else do you look for now in this person at this time at the age of 80?
So I hate to do this because I'm a Cummins supporter, and I hate to be in this position right now. And this is a mistake all of us made, including the president. I mean, including those who voted for him. I didn't, including everybody in the opposition that end up switching sides and went to vote for this guy. You live with your consequences, right? Just because someone been in government for 40 years plus does not equate to that individual being an effective leader. That's the mistake all of us made, and we have to live with that, right? And this is the narrative that every one of them keep pitching. Oh, he has 40 years experience. Yes, you can just be in a company for 40 years and be pushing pen and paper without rising to executive level. In his case, he went up to becoming a vice president. But let's be honest here. Can we look at the history of the president? I mean, the current president, his history in government. We always talked about the PL 480 loan program with the United States. It was a flop. It was a flop. This was under his watch at LPMC as the manager. He got fired for that. Right? Let me proceed forward. Right? Under Ellen, he was the vice president. His excuse was that he was a parker, he wasn't utilized. Right? So, in as much that we think he had all this experience being in government, there were nothing that you can say he had some tangible, effective policies that during those 12 or 40 years plus were effective that warranted him being president. But that's the mistake all of us made. So for now, I think we have pretty much what we have to live with is him learning on the job. Unfortunately, that's what's going to happen.
The thing is that when you're a serious person, when you come into a government, you must, like they say, they have goals, they have a plan. So the first thing you have to plan now. Those plans, are they very specific? That's the first thing we ask ourselves. Are they specific plans? Are they measurable? Are they attainable? And how can we measure their plans? Because we can say, okay, we're gonna be working for it. No, they should tell us. Okay, we put a plan. This is our plan. This is attainable. This is the framework we have that we're going to achieve the plan. So when our time comes to say, hey, you gave us a plan, you say it was attainable, there was your framework, this is the measurement we're supposed to use, and we've got the point, and we can say nothing. But we can
Let me share this to you guys.
And he's failed on all of that. I said it earlier.
The president has commissioned a new, I would say, commission on economic issues. The likes of Elias, Shanahan, if that's how you pronounce his name, Shanahan, and some other folks who serve in the Ellen government are consulting its president on economic issues.
Back to Ellen.
And I would have liked him to do a more robust think tank of some of Liberia's foremost economists, some of our foremost business tycoon in that country, the like of Simeon, Simeon, what is his name? Simeon Freeman, and some other people who have had really, great success in the private sector, along with those who serve in the public sector who are well versed in financial matters, to see how we can grow our private sector. And I think that's what you have to do. But when you put yourself in the boat and everybody looks like an enemy to you, and you can't wrap your hand around everybody as the father of the nation and bring together your best and brightest to brainstorm and to find innovative ways to do things that will help the Liberian economy, I think that's what the president is lacking the most. Going to borrow money. You think trying to build the infrastructure on borrowing money from the U.S.? No. They sold cheap labor to the U.S. They sold a service for that U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is the currency of the world right now. You have to attract more U.S. dollars into your economy. That means you have to bring people from countries that have an influx of, a high rate of U.S. dollars, particularly from the United States and from other Western countries that will come into your country and bring an influx a foreign currency that's going to boost your economy, you have to do that by attracting investment. And I think these business guys, like somebody said in the comment, you have to make getting the business easier. In this very country, government allow people to borrow money to start small businesses. I mean, you have to come up with innovative ways to solve these problems. I don't think President Boakai had that capacity, and it would be unfair to us to put everything on his shoulders. That's why you should bring together a team of capable young people who have the experience and have the history behind them of creating jobs, creating success stories in the private sector, and try to help him to formulate a strong plan that will boost the private sector. I think that's what he should have done. And he's still dragging his feet after 9 months. He needs to get on it like right now. He needs to get on it. Yeah, go ahead.
You will be very disingenuous to the Liberian people if you say you can't put everything on Mr. Boakai's shoulder. President Boakai assume that he has to.
Meaning you don't know it all in here, but you have people around here that will help him. Nobody know everything.
Listen,
oh, I mean,
your workers under you will be as good as you are as the leader who's supervising them. You can get skillful people under you like a football team. If you have a bad coach, your team will not win even though you got good players because you don't know how to place them for a fact. President Boakai got people advising that got no clue what they're advising on. He has made tremendous blunder economically. He has made tremendous blunder legally. That thing got slapped in his face and rolled all over him today. With none of those things moving anymore, they are stagnant.
He still got time to fix it, Mr. Dr. Pearson. He still got time.
Time is not what the Liberian people have. The woman in that community who don't have money to put on her table for her children to eat don't have time. The child who wants to pay her school fees don't have time. The little boy who's selling on that street, the street sellers now, the kids are getting plenty in Monrovia as we speak right now. They don't have the time. Boakai has the time. He has $100,000 prepaid card right now in your pocket.
Prepaid card for that whole year, boy. What are they doing with that prepaid card? How many scratch can you get by with it?
No. What they give him $100,000 prepaid card to put in his pocket while he's on his foreign trip. He has the luxury of time. But that woman in Boakai, that woman in Sasta, she doesn't have the time. And we did not put somebody in power to go look for time. We put them there to run.
So what do you propose we do now? Since nobody has the time and the president is not working, what do you propose we do?
Let me tell you something. I want to start a year right now that we're having conversation about the 2025 budget. That's what I want to hear right now. I want to hear we are having conversation around the 2025 budget. And not only that we're having conversation around the 2025 budget, we want to have a transparent process where everybody's saying here, you can tap into the minds of the people before you even can. We shouldn't wait until December 13, December 14 before the budget drum into the house, and then hurry pass it, and then say when the budget pass, and then we implementing budget and go to another shortfall. Where is the budget for 2025? The entire arrest agenda, however they want to call it, if there is not a vibrant budget, a vibrant national budget to support that strategy, like the Father Washington said, if you have a clear vision, you have a clear plan, and you don't have a clear spending analysis to that plan, where we're going, with our budget envelope, where are we with the budget envelope going to 2025? What is the fiscal spending projection for 2025? What is going to be the realistic achievement of that budget in line with what we experience currently in revenue generation? How can we get rid of this on plan for expenditure on the side that President Boakai is doing, putting $100,000 scratch down in your pocket? How can we plan for these things?
Let
me say this quickly.
Let's assume we have the best minds to put the best budget in place, the best mind and the best budget. Liberia is the same. You put the best mind, the best budget, that budget before it gets to that person in our village, they already finished stealing all the money. So is the problem the budget? Before it gets to somebody, before that budget gets to that, the thing where they say, oh, we're supposed to have that school. Before that budget money gets to that school, the money is already finished. They already steal the money.
Washington, it is good for our country, right? It is good for the Boakai administration right now as I speak. Our finance minister and our LRA should be able to tell us, based on what we saw from revenue strength from 2024 for the short period of time we're in office, we can project that we have a strength to move in this trajectory. And based on this move, this is the kind of budget we want to see going into 2025. That conversation should be held now. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying
My question is the problem with the budget?
Yes.
Yes, the problem is with the budget, not growing the tax base.
No, it's not with the budget. To be very frank with you, if you read the article that was just read, a budget was put in place by the experts through the Ministry of Finance, Planning, Development, and they submitted it. It was passed in the lower and the upper houses, both houses, between the president's office and going to be printed into a handbill at the foreign ministry. The entire budget changed.
Anthony Myers changed the budget. He should be in jail right now, and he admitted to it.
Our buddy Mr. Washington is right. It has nothing to do with the budget. You can write the budget.
Mr. Gimmin,
you can write the budget to be as beautiful as they want it to be. It is the implementation.
No, Mr. Gimmin. The budget as it is not a projection of what we want to achieve.
That's the point he's making now. Even if it's a line, it still wouldn't do what it's supposed to do because of the people and the way it is carried out.
So are we saying we shouldn't prepare
we should
a budget for the country that will project good investment into developmental projects? We should.
But you also have to look at the other side.
But how you pay all the people that are on the payroll? How you pay the civil servant? How you pay your lawmakers?
I can tell you that. If I'm in Liberia right now, I'm not going to be looking at like somebody saying cut down on the recurring expense in terms of salaries and stuff like that. I'm not saying we should pay people ridiculous salary. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that once you up your revenue capacity and spend into those areas that are developmental oriented and that will move the country forward and put money in people's pocket, the ordinary people's pocket, and improve their lives, they will not be worried about your recurring expense. Guys,
respectfully, Dr. Pearson, we don't have the capacity. This is why our budget has remained at the 600 million mark.
So we don't have the capacity.
Let me finish.
We don't.
Right? First, let me land, right? You cannot identify people in Liberia right now. Nobody has an identification number, Social Security. That's one. Two, you cannot identify properties in Liberia. So you cannot identify those properties. How are you going to tax them, right?
You have to broaden the tax base.
Right. You have to expand your tax base, and we don't have the capacity right now to do that. We don't have the system in place to do that.
That's a minimalist approach to the idea.
No, that's the way you raise revenue, domestic revenue.
Let me finish, then you can count.
Right? Until we broaden our mind and understand that we got money.
Let me finish, then you can counter. Let me finish.
No, the point here is a lot of people not paying taxes in that country.
And then you can counter.
Wait, one at a time. Let Mr. Carter finish.
Let me land, and then you can count. Let me land, and you can counter. We don't have the capacity to identify people right now in Liberia, right? So let's say you leave from here, you go settle in Liberia. You're running a business. You're making a lot of money. I can't tax you on your business. I might be able to tax you on your business level, but on your personal level, how would I be able to tax you? You can't file taxes in Liberia to identify that. So I can't tax you on a personal level as well, right? We don't have that ability to identify people in Liberia. We don't have the ability to identify property assets, which is the major thing that can catapult you to wealth individually. Forget the government. We don't have that ability. This is why you see eyesores of property sitting in Central Monrovia. Nobody can identify them to tax them. That's one. Two, I am in the process of registering a company right now. It's going to take me weeks to do that. If not, I have to pay somebody $85 to rush through that process. Over here in other countries, you can sit right on this laptop where you are in front of me right now and register a business in those countries. You don't have that. You don't have a way to make it easy for all of you here to say you're running a business, to identify what percentage of tax you're supposed to pay either at the end of the year or every quarter. So until we put in that system where we're able to do that, you will forever be limited to concessions and taxing the few people that work in government, because government is the highest employer right now. The last thing I'm going to say is this: businesses in Liberia, all the businesses in Liberia, right? The biggest employer is the government. So until you, I think Maurice said this earlier, until you focus on expanding your business for people to do business and register in your private sector and be able to expand the tax base from there, you will forever be limited. I will say one thing, I promise you, and I will end. The HPX deal, right? I don't know if you guys heard about it. It just got signed secretly. Do you know how much that is worth? At the time it was signed, iron ore was trading at $92 per megaton. It is reported that we have 650 million megaton in that 96-mile corridor. Do you know how much that is at $92 per megaton? That is $62 billion worth of money that we have right there, right? In June of this year, it was trading at 119. That is equivalent to $72 billion. Tell me if you were able to sign that transaction and say, give us 40% of that 62 billion. That will put us in a middle market, or middle emerging economy. But these are the problems that we have that we're not able to identify to be able to leverage our resources that is limiting us.
Mr. Eastman, 10 seconds. 10 seconds, Mr. Eastman. I'll give it to you, Dr. Percy. Let me say this.
Morris,
No. Let me say this. 10 seconds, please. 10 seconds. Please.
Morris, let me say this, Mr. Carter. Let me say this. I respectfully disagree with you. Let me tell you something. Liberia has a zoning law. Liberia has identification markers for every house in Liberia if we want to. We did that successfully during the Liberian civil crisis in war. Every house in Liberia was accounted for. Every hut in Liberia was accounted for. Every little kitchen was accounted for, and they received. Listen. I'm not speaking fallacy. I live it. I saw it.
Can you mail something in Liberia right now to any address?
Listen, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it is working 100%. No, I'm saying it's possible. And before Thomas Nine died, let me make this clarification. Before Thomas Nine died, Thomas Nine was collaborating with the city mayor of Freetown. What a woman name again?
Barclay. I think I need Barclay, right?
Yeah. And they were in the process of marking. Geopolitically marking homes in Liberia. It's not about we don't have system. We no, listen. We can, if we want to put in the system today, we can hire experts. There's very 15 million. But stop. The 15 million we just spend a few days off our budget. If we are hire a system to be built to track and expand our tax base, it is possible. If we are investing this 15 million into existing businesses, Liberian-owned businesses, to expand the business and employ more Liberians across Liberia, we have to expand our tax base.
So you agree with me?
So then you agree with him.
You agree with me that it is contingent upon that.
You see, it's not
Mr.
possible.
Eastman, I'll ask him for 10 seconds.
I
Ready
didn't say
for
it's not
my 10 seconds.
possible. I said it is until.
It's attainable. It's attainable. It's highly attainable. But we're thinking too
That's what I'm
small.
saying. Until we do that, you cannot grow your
That's
revenue
correct.
base.
Okay, let me Mr. Gabriel.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
1 second, Mr. Gamer. Look, when I was a kid and I was working at McDonald's for $10 an hour, I was being taxed on that money. As an adult, when you're making salary, you're getting taxed on that money. Why you think in the country you can't go on the side of the road and put whatever market down and start selling candy on the side of the road? You can't do that. The idea that when we charge people who are selling quote unquote whatever market, or people who are making small businesses, if we're taxing them, then we're doing bad to them. The poor people, how you taxing poor people? In America, they give you Social Security reason for the sole purpose of paying taxes. Once you're a baby, you're born. You can never get a job without putting your Social Security number. You will never get a job without doing a W-2 or 10. But I'm trying to tell you that the tax base in this country is so broad that every citizen, there's a saying here, Mr. Eastman, you know that saying, there's two things that's guaranteed in America. What is it? Death and taxes. You must pay taxes. Every single citizen must pay taxes. The key in Liberia is a lot of majority of Liberian people don't pay taxes on the income they make. They don't pay taxes on it. And if you want to broaden, you have to broaden your tax base, and that's how government generate revenue, is to collect taxes. We're leaving a lot of money on the table by not taxing everybody in the country who are making income. We must tax them. No matter if they're very, very poor or they're very, very rich, we must tax them. America do the same thing here. People living in the ghetto that are making $24,000 a year, guess what? That $24,000 is being taxed. You got to tax everybody. That's the key.
Our tax system is different from the tax system in the United States. It was
Mr.
just,
Eastman.
We have to tax everybody. That's the key. Even if the rates are different, we must tax everybody that's making income.
So
Thank you.
let me go to Jerome right now. Jerome.
Our tax system does not. We did not have the VAT tax. VAT also tax system.
Yeah.
We're talking about income tax, not VAT, not value added tax. We're talking about income tax. Every income you make, it must be taxed.
We pay income tax in Liberia.
The Willa market people pay income tax. How many women the Willa market women pay income tax to the government? How many paying?
Mr. Eastman.
Allow me to come in. Allow me to come in.
We do pay income tax, but it's
for a
still
fact
limited. It's
that
limited.
real
It's
estate
limited
tax-
to the people in government. That's
Yeah.
why you have to expand the tax
You know,
base
I
that
know
people
for a fact
pay.
that real estate tax, for instance, is largely underpaid in Liberia.
Exactly.
And that is one of the one place we can get money. But to look at the widow market people, they should be on the books. But I don't think that where we get a lot of revenue from.
You get a lot of revenue from that. You get a lot of revenue. Not just the Willa market, but anybody that's doing trading, all the other small business people do, you got to tax them, Mr. Eastman. You know that.
Let me go to Mr. Gaiman. Gaiman, you had something to
I'd
say.
like to contribute.
Yeah. There are two things that we need to look at here. The United States report says Liberia is one of the countries where it is very difficult to open a new business. That is the assessment from across the world. You cannot fly from here with 2 weeks on your belt, say, I'm going to Liberia, I'm going to start a business. It doesn't work. You will spend months to have a business incorporated there. Two, Mr. Famulin had an issue with the Ellen government because we do not have a developed property identification system, which is, and I'm saying this because I got 3 properties in Liberia and I had to go to the ministry to say, I have a home, I have properties, and they say, how long you had it? Then they say, well, I paid 3 years back. They say, you got to self-report. That means they do not have a tax and property identification system. I did a course at Harvard, public policy, and to my amazement, one of the projects, one of the scenarios they had was telecommunication around the world. They picked 200 countries, and out of Harvard University, they mailed letters to all 200 countries. Guess what? One of the first countries for the past 10 years, they have not had any return of either one of the addresses was Liberia. I was embarrassed that they actually mail letters to these countries to see how the telecommunication, that the property identification, how does it work? And they have not been able to receive any communication back in return. So it goes back to Famula, George, listen.
Why can we do this?
Listen.
Why can we do
No,
this?
let him talk. Let him
Listen,
talk.
I'm
Let him
saying
talk.
that George Famula came up with the idea that, listen, I'm going to develop the property identification system. You can trust it, you can change it, you can do whatever you want. And it turned out that politics got involved. They gave it to somebody that were in their system and that died. So yesterday, the LPP, which is part of the Unity Party government, came up. They are all experts. They came out and said, we have to increase our revenue base. How do we do that? Instead of giving tax-free exemption to all the concessions in Liberia, let's do 10% on export taxes on all of our raw material. It will automatically grow our base. We don't have to borrow, like Mr. Carter was saying. If you look at the tons of raw material that are leaving Liberia, and you just tax them 10%. We don't have to go to China. We don't have to go to America. We can have enough money generated on the ground. This is a new idea. If you look at this, the chairman of the political party will be here on Sunday. And Mr. Carter, if you have the time, Doc, if you have the time, our pastor here, if you have the time, please come on Sunday. Let us have the discussion, because this is a new way of looking at how we can broaden our tax base without passing the burden on to people who barely have it to pay.
Okay, so
we need to look at this. What do you think? Let's look at
let
this.
me just
Mr.
continue.
Washington, like to speak.
I just wanted to say something. Yeah, I mean, we in the Liberia, we are pretty interested people. We're talking about expanding our tax base. The little money you're getting, the little one you're getting from the people, you put them in your pockets. You give it to yourself, to your children. But you are talking about expanding your tax base so that you can take more money from them. Come on, man.
That's
Why would
fair
you see
enough.
what's in this country? The very one, the people don't even have water. They don't have lights. They have nothing. The little one you're collecting from them. Now you talk about expanding the tax base so you can get more money so that they can suffer.
Well,
It's almost like somebody saying to his kids, okay, I'm going to make it $500. So, but he's wearing the Gucci shoe, he's wearing this and wearing that. The children are not eating in the house, and he said, okay, when you start selling, when you start going out and get this more money, bring it, then things will get better for us. Come on.
Mr. Washington, listen to the debate here. They are saying 10%. Now you bring people like Mr. Carter in, and you and everybody else who has some expertise in these areas. The moral philosophy of poverty, the calculations, the political science, the social psychology of all of this is time. And this is a new idea. What happens if we agree to the 10%? The question from you would be, where does the 10% go? How it is applied? And then you bring someone like Mr. Carter. And Mr. Carter, you go ahead and address this because he will be here on Sunday.
Yeah, but for me, I think that's where if we could just, the little we have, if we could just use it, people naturally will want to contribute if they can see something. If somebody sees that the money that they're collecting they're fixing their roads, they will want to pay. And, if somebody sees that the little money that you're paying for taxes is being used for them to get water, they will want to pay because it's benefiting them.
But how can you pay something you don't have?
Give me 10 seconds, Mr. Give me when Eastman when you finish. 10 seconds, please.
If I keep paying taxes and it's not benefiting, why would I keep paying? Why would I keep paying?
Okay. It's the opposite. Respectfully, it's the opposite, Mr. Father Washington. I would say this. If you remember the Boston Tea Party, what was the slogan? No taxation without representation, right?
Yep.
The key here is people who spend their hard-earned money, we complain about it all the time. Look at the rule. Like, where my tax money going to? I don't want to be giving my tax money to people who are not working. They're getting welfare with my tax money. You pay that tax money, and thereby you have an invested interest in how that money is spent. If you pay your tax money in your child's school, in your district is poor, you're going to go to the city council and say, is this how you're spending my tax money, my hard-earned tax money? You have that interest. A lot of Liberians are so docile because their sweat is not in it. The sweat is not in it.
I disagree.
I'm telling you this. You don't say, one second, please. When you pay your hard-earned money, whether you get it or not, you think in America because you pulled with you're telling people, I already pulled, you have made money in the government. Why you want to take my little money what I'm making from McDonald's or from Walmart? You still have to pay that tax. No matter how much you're making, whether you're making $100 million or you're making $20,000 a year, you have to pay that tax.
Yeah, no, but
the key here is we allow our emotion get in the way of how government runs. The two things can be true at the same time. Yes, these guys are getting paid exorbitantly at the legislature, but at the same time, we widen our tax base and make sure that the poorest people who are making income is paying taxes, and the people who are in the middle class are paying taxes. Home property taxes are being paid. We need to broaden those tax base so that everybody who's benefiting from government service and anybody who is making income pays taxes. But no country develop without taxation. It's a must.
Let's let him respond to that.
We are not opposed to paying taxes. Nobody's opposed to taxes. People want to pay taxes. But people are going to pay taxes if they can see that what that money is being used for. So, I mean, if I'm going to be paying taxes and I've seen that every time I pay taxes and nothing is being used, I'm not going to be paying taxes.
Oh, you're not going to be paying taxes? Try in America. Try in America. See, I see my road get power. I'm not going to pay taxes. See if the IRS will not come put you in jail the next morning. It's not an option. It's a must.
Listen,
yeah, but people also have the right to see.
That's why you vote and you become more active in the governance of the country, because you know your tax money is not being properly utilized. That's why you vote and you get involved in politics.
Even people are paying
not refusing to pay taxes. That's not an answer.
Mr. Eastman.
Yeah.
The little people are paying the money for the good of the people.
We have a question here. Hopefully, we can all take a stab at it. It says here, in what way has the UP Boakai administration maintained the status quo, and how has it affected the implementation of anything new, and including his promises? By bringing back the old folks, has it helped him with the helping? Do they have any other new ideas? What do you think? Let's Mr. Eastman, you give it a shot, and then let Mr. Clarence.
Let me explain what's going on here. Mm-hmm. And I've been noticing it since Ellen time. There are a couple of things, the dynamics. First of all, people have to trust you. And when people don't know you very well, they say you get promotion about who know you, not who you know. If people don't know you, they're less inclined to trust you. One. Also, when you come up with people, when you have been working together and you kind of know the nature of that person, you know what they're in for, you know what they're not in for. So again, that you share a common existence, so you know how each other behave again. So when you see people bringing back those people, it's because they're familiar with those people. Now you bring somebody like Pearson, young man like Dr. Pearson here, who has a PhD already, and he has some radical ideas. He said, "Well, this kind of man here, he's talking. Why don't we make him a labor minister, or in charge of revenue collection?" They would say, "What? You know that man before you make it." So this is what's been going on. That's why they keep on recycling these people, because as Eugene Fangon used to say a long time, you don't see him open his mouth anymore. But he said there's a cartel. A cartel described is a band of people doing things in a dishonest way, and so they recognize each other, and they keep it going. They keep the status quo as is, and they don't want new entrants to break up their syndicate. So they keep it going. So that is one of the reasons why you see them bringing back only the people they know again and again. But we have to break that trend. We can break that trend, but it takes a leadership like our esteemed lawyer who always coming on says, it takes leadership to break that trend, that culture.
Mr. Eastman, you have done the autopsy, and you don't tell them what killed this. What the former man from the Dole government said. You not tell them what killed the dead body. Now what what can we do to shift so Boakai's business? There's no business as usual. So this thing cannot be business, because as it is now, by recycling the old folk, we got business as usual. What should he do, or what can he do, so we don't have business as usual? Take a crack at it, then we'll go to Dr.
Okay, that's a simple thing. There has to be. You have to take.
Simple. How come he's not doing it?
No, but he doesn't want. You have to want to. You have. In any reform program, they tell you the first thing that is required. The very first thing is the will. You have to have the will, the commitment. Okay, you take the will and the commitment to reform. Without that, nothing's going to work, because sometimes you have to embarrass your own relative or your own friend or your own society man or your own tribe man, and you got to tell him, you say, my man, I gave you trust, you did it, I'm putting you in jail. Now you need willpower to do that. You need conviction to do that. And until we have somebody who has the conviction that will put their mind in jail if they stole, we'll just be going around the bend. The cartel will continue.
Dr. Pearson, do your own autopsy. Why we are here and how can we get out of that?
Listen, we're not getting out of anyway. And when I said this before, people got think I'm offended with Boakai. I'm not offended with President Boakai. I don't think he has the capacity to lead. Now, it's embarrassing for me to do this right now, but let me do it. Let's go back to Management 101. Management 101 says, no matter who you got working in your factory, these ideas developed in the industrialized period, when people started having factories and jobs started flowing around, you have many people to manage. So some smart guys came together and said, listen, for this factory to run or the country to run, we have to plan properly. And the planning means you got to have a clear objectives and determining what the best strategy you want to achieve from the people that you're managing. President Boakai does not have that right now. Everybody doing their own thing. Another thing you must do is that you must organize. And organizing, you got to have a structure. And not only that, you got to define the roles and responsibilities of people under you. President Boakai has not done that. Everybody doing their own thing. You have leadership and leading. And by leading, it says you have to guide employees in a way that they are directed towards the goal that you have to achieve. President Boakai does not have a clear goal for the people that he's leading. Another thing, you have to control them. Who's controlling who in Liberia right now? Who's controlling who? There's no control. And last, the decision making. Have we seen President Boakai making, strong decisions that not only strong, but decisions that are adequate, efficient, and effective decision making ever since not even he's suspended and somebody suspended the employees, the managers from LDA for him, the son and suspended them. Not the president. The president suspended guys, but the different person signed the suspension because you're away. Ever since 3 months going to 4 months, when drug issue in Liberia is a major concern. And not only that, but drug was declared by our president as national emergency. 3 months going to 4 months, he has not made a decision on whether he will keep those guys or he will replace those guys. My brother, we're going nowhere. I'm worried. I think President Boakai needs to resign. He needs to leave office. And let's look, Evis, our country, we have to be honest with our country. When people are not able to do the work, don't keep them there and be dishonest to them.
I agree with you, Dr.
When you come get them, you hurt the majority of the people.
Dr. Pierce, I agree with you. Let me go to Mr. Carter. Your options, what have they done that have kept them obviously where they are, and what can they do drastically to make Boakai look good so it doesn't look like business as usual? Because from this is not even what happened in the Weah administration. We are going all the way back. When Talbot tried to be what Dr. Pearson is doing here, it cost him his life. He was holding people accountable when they were sloths in the government. He would go to offices in the morning, make sure you show up on time. If you didn't show up on time, he will fire you. His cousin got hanged. One of his people from Kipamas, the Anasins, they were all intertwined. He hanged all of those people that were involved. What can Joseph Boakai do here if he's a product of his time? Nothing will change because he talk about it and see what happened to him. What can Joseph Boakai do so it doesn't seem like business as usual?
Yeah, great question. Whoever asked that question is very thoughtful. I don't want to dwell on what he has done. I think it's glaring. In as much that I want to be fair, it is glaring that what he has done so far is a complete disaster. And again, this is the thing that we do. We kind of make these mistakes. We don't look at people's history. We saw how he led with the CPP, in terms of leadership, right? When he was in charge, he literally abandoned that role. So that gave us an indication of how this person leads. He avoids, and we're seeing a lot of the avoidance strategies here in this administration, where things that are, that require leadership, where he's supposed to rise to the occasion to prove his leadership credential and capability, he avoids them. He relegates those to other people to do that, right? And for us, I think that is evidence based on, as I keep saying, the false start that he's had, the mismanagement, the firing of the central bank governor the wrong way, the yellow machines. He has had a lot of failures, so we can't discount those things. They're obvious. They're there, right? Now, in terms of what he needs to do to put air in his car tire to get it back on the road to keep rolling, hopefully dragging along that people can see it and say this car is moving, I think there are a few things he can do. One is, we keep saying this thing, we equate degree holders with practicality, which is wrong. A lot of the people that he had in Ellen era were just a bunch of degree holders who did not have practical experience. They left, they never went anywhere else to gain that practical experience and say, hey, when I first took over, maybe Ellen gave me an opportunity to prove myself, right? Everybody needs to be given opportunity, but after that, you need to go get practical experience. None of that happened. But in return, what he did, he brought those same people back with this whole granular personality and flamboyant personality that these people are quote unquote technocrats. These are technocrat, what we call on paper. They're just paper and pen pusher, right? You can have a master's degree in whatever you want to have, but in terms, you don't have the practical experience. That's a lot of those he has brought back and surround himself with. So what he needs to do, I keep saying this, go back, restructure, reshuffle, that like they call it, and bring some innovative people around you, people who will challenge even your ideas. That if you put out this agenda, if I can go through the arrest agenda, I will be able to be bold and tell you, Mr. Gaiman or Dr. Pearson, some of these things you put in this arrest agenda, respectfully, based on our economic standpoint, where we're standing right now, some of these things will not work. Take this, and go with it. Without you seeing me, any of you seeing me as an opposition or somebody who's opposing you, right? But I think he has a lot of those yes men around him who have no practical experience. None. Can you imagine going on 3 countries without bringing back one deal? Can you imagine having this kind of strategic relationship with the United States, and they have not given you a penny, and all they dangle in front of you is $663 million that they give you every year? So it is glaring that the great United States, as much that we have this kind of relationship with them, do not trust him, his leadership. And it's evidence because of his past, or what he did with their money, with the PF 480 loans, right? So for him, he has to look within. I will say this lastly, and I will end. He has to look within. There's money in Liberia. People kind of discount it. There's money in Liberia. As I said earlier, the HPX deal, we have 62 billion sitting in our pocket right now, right? There are the diaspora community here. We are literally the middle class of that country. How do you tap into that? We have a lot of people, most of you have money, but you don't want to bring it back because you don't trust the government. How do
They established a diaspora office.
Recently. How do you now tap into that? Say these group of people are the middle class. They have capital, liquid capital. How can I create the environment that they will trust and bring back this money to invest in this country, right? Instead of going panhandling to other countries. So for me, those are some of the things that I would tell him. Look within and what we call put some skin in the game. When people see you, now you can take that skin in the game and now go outside to go seek investment. So for me, I think those are some of the improvement he needs to make. Thank you.
Great. Dr. Pearson, I will come to the close of this program. you said everything starts from the top, leadership. And when you look at the arrest agenda, the first thing in that aid is agriculture. And the R is the rule of law. The president, during his campaign, said agriculture and the rule of law. When people are coming to invest, they want to make sure that the investment will be protected by what? The rule of law. The president, the first major thing he did was go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled against him, and he disregarded the highest rule of law in the country. So how does a PhD who has his last button on Joe's coat, work in the United States, save all his 401k wants to go, how will you invest in a country when the court rule on your behalf? The president has the power to say, I disregard what the Supreme Court said I'm going to do. So what does this say about what we say? I'm saying this because last night we were on a show, and one of the president's speech writers, Dr. Dukley, says, what we say in politics on the campaign trail has very little to do with what we do in office. And I was shocked. But this is the kind of thing we're talking about. How will you put your money into a country where the people do not respect the rule of law and do not respect what they even believe or say?
You see, Mr. Gaiman, I think there were, in addition to what you just said, holding that constant, is to just even imagine, in addition, that the president is traveling abroad to ask people to bring the money into Liberia, right? And then while we're asking people to bring the money into Liberia, the very budget that runs the very Liberia, the national budget that becomes a law, like you see, that becomes a law, was tampered with. And not just that, but the same person who's asking me to bring my money into his country and telling me that my investment will be safe in his country is not only violating his own budget law, but is spending outside of their very budget. It goes to say to you, if I put my investment capital as will be required as a collateral down before I can come in on your soil to invest, how am I sure that my money is safe? How am I sure my money is safe? When I see you putting someone over your central bank who preside over a bank that you borrow from, and not only that, but the bank that you borrow from that he ran is on a shaky foundation in terms of liquidation. How do I put my money in that kind of a institution? Not only that, when I see you have another additional governor to your central bank who is going to be holding my investment collateral, I see you employ to the central bank a governor who owes and in default with the very central bank that is going to govern. And in addition, I see you employ a finance minister who credited from the central bank and did not pay until he had the opportunity to come back to work for government again after 6 years. Then he settled the debt, and now he say he able not to be finance minister. How can I invest my money in there? How can I invest my money there when I see you are at loggerhead with the opposition political parties, and you guys are going through scrimmages that cause the whole economy to go to a standstill? That another investor right opposite your opposition party was shut down for a whole day and lost millions of dollars of income because it did not operate that day. How do I take my money there? It's sad, Mr. Gaiman. And we're closing to say, look, President Boakai needs to pause. And that's my closing. He needs to pause. He needs to stop. He needs to realize that he's proceeding wrong. He needs to curb all that corruption that happened under him while he's chasing the CDC guys who corrupted in the past. I mean, he needs to clear all those corruption that happened. Stop that outside of budget expenditure stuff. He needs to stop it. And last but not the least, Mr. Gaiman, this is what I want to say to President Boakai right now. President Boakai, whatever you are doing, pick up the phone, call Gafuan, and said, Gafon, I want to see a draft budget 2025 on my desk before the end of this month, so I can advance it to the National Legislature to give them enough time for public debate, for public review, and for the legislature to have sufficient time to argue, because in the argument process, we'll get new ideas to improve that budget going forward.
Great. Reverend Washington, I know I look on your face. You look like my friend in Atlanta, the editor-in-chief of The Perspective. Every time I go, he's a great writer. Every time you call him, he says, I told you in 2005 that the country was doomed. I told you this in 2010. I told you this in 2015. I told you this in 2020. So don't call me about Joseph Boakai. So here we are. Joseph Boakai was part of the law that crafted the tenure position under the Ellen, and he was president of the Senate that passed the law. Joseph Boakai came back, violated his own law. When the Supreme Court ruled, he disregarded the Supreme Court, and basically the entire government, most of the agencies are run by, he says, they are acting. So everywhere you go, acting, because the Supreme Court says he cannot remove these people, so he doesn't want to hire anybody, so he puts them there as acting. How will you put your money into a system where the rule of law is not taken for the grain of salt?
You know, in my first year of philosophy, there was one Latin phrase that we learned, which is nemo dat quod non habet, which means that no one can give what they don't have. And that is why I'm surprised that the people who elected Joseph Boakai as the president, after spending 40 years in government, still think that he can do better. And he thinks because they elected him, he thinks he can do better. But for me, I don't see anything going to change. I always keep saying there's nothing fundamentally going to change, because, and moreover, when Joseph Boakai look at the government that he succeeded, he doesn't also see anything there that he can measure himself with. So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, if they fail, I don't see what is there that I can look at and say, hey, I'm going to do better than what they've done, because there's nothing absolutely there as well. So it's like, it's the same road. So he's just following the same road that we have had. And that is why the argument about the budget, you know, maybe because it was not his own budget, that's why he's not performing the way he needs to. But he doesn't need a budget to do reform. Like you just talked about the whole thing about the tenure position. He didn't need any budget to do that. It takes charisma, what kind of person you are, and you know, to say, hey, I'm going to bring about reform. I don't need a budget to bring about reform. I don't need a budget to be able to say, you know, going forward, this is what our country is going to do. Rule of law. I don't need budget to do that. I mean, yeah, you need it to fund the police. You need to do, but hey, to make major policy decisions, you don't need a budget to do that. People will see that, hey, this is what he stands for, and that's why at the beginning, before the elections, I kept saying, I don't know him very well, but 40 years, I look into his past record. Is there anything that he has done that can let me to hold on and say, hey, when he becomes president, this is the reform he's going to bring? And I never saw anything. And, you know, and that is why I'm not hopeful to think that, hey, he's going to bring something, he's going to bring any kind of, you know, fundamental change. So, yeah, so for me, we can keep hoping all we want. Our country, we just need to, I don't know, we need to go back to basics. We need to start teaching our young people. We need to start teaching our kids in school.
Yeah.
They know what it means to be sincere, what it means to be humble, and you know, the little values that they can learn from. But if we are adults are not there to show it to them, they're not going to learn it, because they see what kids can see what we do as adults, and so they just follow it, because the very people. Sometimes I hear Liberians say, oh, let them get the qualified Liberians. Let them get the qualified Liberians, and you know, the experts. Let them bring them. I've had situations in our country where they brought people from the United States who they call, quote unquote, the experts. They were the very people who came and stole and ran away and came back to America.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. You know, time is fast spent, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. But before we leave, I want you to answer your own question, Mr. Gaiman, and let's wrap it up.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. As we get 1 minute each to close up, and then I think we're on our 2-hour mark here. for me, everybody knows that I am a partisan. There is no if and ands about it. This is why when we're having our on point, we expect people who have a position, a conviction, plant your flag and defend your flag. Like I said, I've defended the PAPD. I got a copy here. It's a Bible that I carry around. I can tell you that through the PAPD, President, we had the free Wyatt for 6 years, free education at a higher level for 6 years. The president did roads in every county for 6 years. We did things. The first year that President Weah became, we did a door community road. We did a lot of stuff. And what did it say? When someone who grew up in park and recreation, when I talked to the CDC and when I told them that parks and recreation reduce crime, all of these things were being introduced. You saw those things. Why were they saying that parks we will eat, that road we will eat, that this we will eat? When we come to the economy is stupid. Fine. It was a catchy phrase that you took from Bill Clinton. The economy is stupid. Now you're there, and you can't do either one of those. So what I'm saying here is, when you come on our show, believe in something, have a conviction, defend it. But since the election has been over, all the mermaids of the world, the Morris Cromans of the world, the Alio Camaras of the world, all the people that were on here from the
They disappear.
They have all disappeared. So this tell me that they didn't have any conviction. They didn't know what they were doing. They just wanted to win. And this is where we are. So for me, I say, gentlemen, thank you very much for allowing me, Mr. Eastman, to be on here. But I believe in what I believe in, and I defend it 24/7. And if you can't defend what you believe in, then you're just like a snowflakes. Thank you very much.
No way to win. Thank you very much.
That is rightly said.
And unless anybody wants to add anything to closing, I'm going to play our song that we all keep remembering who we are, and that is We Are All Liberian.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
is our home. Liberian people. Liberian.